All right, everybody, hello and welcome to the San Jose State Weekly Football Press Conference. San Jose State will take on Boise State this Saturday, November 28th, from Boise, Idaho at 2 o'clock Mountain kickoff time, 1 o'clock Pacific time. Our coverage will begin on the Spartan Radio Network at 12:30. And on the Spartan Radio Network, we'll have an additional station this week, 860 AM KTRB will carry the call on the Spartan Radio Network, including TuneIn as well. This week, television coverage for the first time since 2006. It will be an over-the-air network telecast for San Jose State football. It will be on Fox starting at 1 o'clock Pacific time this week against Boise State. We now welcome in San Jose State head coach Brent Brennan.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. Thank you very much for coming. It's awesome. Getting good crews here to show up for these weekly press conferences. Kind of fun. I wish we had a game to talk about at Fresno, but we don't. And that's kind of the way of the world right now. COVID is impacting everyone's lives in one way or another. And obviously for us, it's in losing an opponent that we, it's just such a great game. It's just, there's so much history. There's so much that goes into that week of preparation. So that was disappointing. But it's also the reality. You look around college football, lots of people are dealing with that, and I think obviously there's people dealing with much more serious situations than college football right now. But, now we're getting ready. We shift gears, get ready for Boise State. I think you're getting ready to play the perennial best team in the Mountain West Conference, have been forever. I know they've got great personnel. They're extremely well coached. Going to play them at home where they're excellent on their blue surface. And so, there's just a lot that goes into this game. The not getting to play a game last weekend, I think feels funny because we were kind of in game mode and we've been playing good football, but gives us a chance to get ready for this one, which is obviously one of those huge games. And, it's going to be on national TV, and it's got all the awesome stuff that you hope and dream for your players, and so we'll be excited to play.
Okay, we're going to go open up to questions now, and again, you can either raise your hand in the participants or you can type it into the chat that you have a question, and we'll make our way around. Justice De Los Santos, we'll start with you.
It's Justice De Los Santos, Mercury News. So you alluded to the Fresno State game being canceled. So kind of a two-part question here. The first one being, with the game not happening, what was kind of the itinerary for the weekend for your guys?
They lifted on Friday, and then we had a light practice on Saturday and a normal Sunday, like as if we had played a game the day before.
Gotcha. And since you were planning to play an opponent, would you consider it a bye week or not so much just because you had that preparation?
Yeah, no, it didn't feel like a bye week at all because we practiced every day. You know what I mean? It was just much different.
All right, Bob Beeler, go ahead.
Coach, how are you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
Well, good. Looking forward to having you come up here. Just a couple of questions on your team. Where do you guys think you're better this year, and why do you think you've been able to be so successful this season?
I think right now we're playing much better defense than we have in years past. And, I think that big part of that is just, some players maturing and getting older and growing up and into their bodies a little bit. Our first couple of years we played a lot of young guys, obviously with some hard days out there on the gridiron. But to their credit, those guys have done a good job of working hard and growing up. So I think we're playing better defense, and I think that's a huge part of kind of where we're at.
What do you think it's going to take to come to Boise and knock off the Broncos? What are the keys from your perspective, and what does it take to come up with a win up here?
I think you have to play a clean game up there. I think those guys do a great job. They play with great effort. They, don't make mistakes. They do all the stuff that they've been doing for a really long time. And then they match that with really good personnel, right? They've got talented players at every position. They recruit at an extremely high level. And so, to go up there and beat them up there, which, has not historically happened very often, and certainly hasn't happened for San Jose State, you got to go up there and you got to play a clean game. You got to not turn it over. You got to be sound in all three phases. And when you get in the red zone, you got to score points. And so, I think that's, they are fantastic football team, and they have been for a really long time.
Okay, we're going to go to Danny White now. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Update news, Danny White at San Jose State. My question is kind of similar to Justice's. Coming off of a 4-0 win, you guys kind of have that gas and that momentum going into the next game. But with this game canceled, how disappointed were you and your players? And how do you guys keep that momentum going into this next game?
Oh, I think everybody was really disappointed. Everybody was crushed. Like I mentioned earlier, that game is such a fun game. The San Jose State, Fresno State game, just the Valley Trophy, the history of that game, just that being the kind of the in-state rivalry for us. It's just such a epic game. So everyone was really disappointed we didn't get to play, but we certainly understand it, right? Like, it's not like, credit to Fresno State, right? They did the right thing with their process and protocol, and through contact tracing, they weren't able to play. And that's just the harsh reality of playing college football with what we're going through with COVID. So, credit to them. And then, how do you keep momentum going? Or, that's kind of a hard question because, I don't know if there's an easy answer. You know what I mean? That, the only chance you have to play good football this weekend is if we attack the practice environment. And so, day in and day out, we have to be incredibly diligent about our meeting times. And the meeting times are different, right? They're all on Zoom or they're outside. We're meeting outside. It's 39 degrees. And, guys are out there in their, with their shoulder pads and, watching film on a Jumbotron, so there's just, there's all kinds of challenges that come with this. But, I really like this team. I think they really care about each other. And I think they'll be excited to play.
All right, Steve Kroener, go ahead.
Coach, I was, first of all, talking to Brian Harson. He said, you guys have no chance, don't even bother coming up. No, I'm joking. He said to say hi.
Good man.
One kind of mundane question and one football question. The mundane question is, you mentioned the COVID restrictions. There's theoretically, when people go out of state now, they're supposed to quarantine for 14 days. I assume you guys don't plan on quarantining for 14 days. If you get back, do you know what the protocol will be for you guys in that regard?
Actually, I don't, but that's a good question. So thanks for the heads up, Steve.
Okay, well, appreciate it. The other question I'm sure you'll appreciate is, and you did allude to it a little bit earlier, San Jose State has not beaten Boise State, period. Now, a lot of coaches and players in a similar situation, some will say, the history means nothing. It's just what happens on that day. And some people will say, you know what? It does mean something. It's in the back of players' minds. If the game is close in the fourth quarter, does that stat give you any extra motivation? Does it give you any trepidation, or does it not play into it at all?
That's a good question. I think, if you're going to be a good football team, you've got to play well against good people. It's a simple, if we want to have a successful, sustainable football program at San Jose State, we're going to have to go toe-to-toe with Boise, and we're going to have to do it with San Diego State. We're going to have to do it with Fresno. We're going to have to do it with the teams that have historically been really good in our conference. That's just the reality of it, So, but I think the history of who plays it, all that stuff, I don't know that plays so much into people's heads outside the fact that, we remember we played them a year ago and we played them pretty well, So I think players tend to fall on more recent history than they do, 10, 15 years history. I remember all that stuff, but I don't know if the players do.
Good. Fair enough. Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
All right, Andrew Pang, you're up next. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Coach Brennan. Andrew Pang of 24/7 Sports. So as the Spartans are preparing to face a Boise State team that has an explosive kick returner, what do you think of the job that Scott White and Fred Giudice are doing with special teams this year?
Their kick returners, he's Devin Hester. I mean, he is amazing. what a great special teams player and really good football player he is, Avery Williams. But I think Coach White and Coach G are doing a great job with that. I think, obviously their roles are different, but I think I'm really excited about what we're doing there. And I think the players are buying in and having fun playing in that game. And I think they are starting to understand how important the special teams impacts it, how important the special teams are and how they impact a game.
Okay, Julia Jackson from San Jose State Stratcom. I know you put something in the chat here. Do you want me to just read it aloud, or do you want to ask Coach?
Oh, sure. Lawrence actually sent me a response to that, but I will ask another question if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Brent. It's Julia from Stratcom.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Congrats on an amazing season so far. I'm kind of curious that, this is a very unusual season for you guys. You started late. There's been some cancellations, not just, affecting you, but the whole conference. So I'm just kind of curious in your mind, like, what is it about this particular group of players that has made you successful despite all of that?
I think a big part of it is just kind of what the majority of these players have been through the last 3 years. I think there's real benefit in that struggle, working through the challenges, not winning games or getting close and not finishing it, or, a year ago, a couple times being there at the end and finding a way to win it. I think I mentioned this last week on my press conference or somewhere I did, but I think, our society is so quick to remove the struggle from people's process, but I think everyone would agree that when you struggle, that's where you learn and that's where you grow. And so I think that and then you hit this situation with, COVID and fires and moving training camp and canceling the season and restarting just like all these things, I think, some of that stuff has definitely pulled us together and made us stronger. And I think, what it really has done is help us to get to know each other really well and to really care about each other, which I think gives us a chance to play well.
Okay, going to Jara next. Go ahead.
What's good, Coach? It's Jara Gajola from the Spear. How you doing?
Jara, what's up, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Last week, of course, your game against Fresno State was canceled later in the week, but this game week, Fresno State's game against San Diego State was canceled earlier for the attention of San Diego State to try to find another opponent for this week. In the case that, later down the line, an opponent of yours has a call off a game earlier in the week, in the attention that San Jose State would find an opponent to reschedule this week. How are you? I mean, what are your thoughts of rescheduling opponents like only a week in advance, basically?
Yeah, I think that's kind of complicated, but I think that's a little bit of what everyone's trying to work through. Something that I keep reminding people of is that, there's no plan for this pandemic, right? Like there's no precedence in the past, right? Like, oh, well, this happened, so you just naturally go play them. No, it doesn't work that way. So, I think it's awesome that San Diego State is trying to get another game. Good for them. And, to their benefit, I guess, it's being Monday, so they have time to actually practice and prepare for that. I think the later in the week that gets, the more challenging that becomes in terms of however you want to look at it. What's best for your team, player safety, like all that stuff. You know what I mean? But I think it's also a new world, right? It's everyone is working through this in the best way that they can. And so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out here over the next month for all of college football.
Okay, back to Bob Beeler. You had a question for Coach?
I do have another one. Tell us a little about your quarterbacks, what the two guys bring to the table and what are their strengths.
Well, Bob, I know you've watched them, so you can probably give me that answer to that question yourself. But they're awesome. They're great kids. They're good leaders. They're fun to be around. Obviously Nick Starkel's done a lot throwing the ball, so that shows up with him. You see Nick Nash is a little more of a dual threat guy, able to impact the game with his legs and throwing the ball. But it's awesome. They're best friends. They, they're always together. You rarely see one without the other. So I think that's really cool because they help each other. They help each other get better. Obviously, Nick Starkel has a ton of experience where Nick Nash doesn't have as much, right? So, in that way, Starkel can help Nick kind of grow and mature and develop as a player. But, the quarterback room is a really cool, good room for us. Like those guys get along, they coach each other. They give each other a hard time, but they come to work every day and they work their butts off. And so it's a lot of fun to see that thing continue to evolve as we go through this unique season.
All right, we're going to go back to Danny. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like Justin said earlier, first time since 2006 that you guys will be nationally televised. Not only that, but if I'm not mistaken, the Broncos are also allowing 1,100 fans in their stands. Does this get you and the players more excited to actually have a live audience and to be on a national stage being televised like that?
I think that those are all cool parts of it. I think the biggest thing that we're excited about is that we just get to play this week. When you're looking at a shortened season and then, what happened last week with Fresno, you realize that every game is super valuable. Every experience, every chance to play, every opportunity to just play is really, really valuable. And so, I think that's the thing our players will be excited about. I mean, those 1,100 fans, I'm sure they'll make plenty of noise, but they're not going to be cheering for the Spartans. You know what I mean? So, but it'll be, it's always fun to go on the road, and and Boise's a fun place to play. They got a great crowd and all that stuff. So I think, but national TV is awesome. I think that's a great thing for our players and for our program. Is that we're playing an important game in November and it's on national TV. Let's go. What more could you ask for?
Okay, Justice De Los Santos, back to you.
Hey, Coach, as you know, Stanford's game was canceled as well, really late in the week. Was there any discussion about potentially trying to make that game happen, or was it just considering how late it was, just a non-starter?
Yeah, just considering how late it wasn't reasonable to try and get that done.
All right, back to Jarret. Go ahead.
I forgot to unraise my hand. My bad, Coach. I didn't have one.
You're all right.
All good. How about Bob? Bob Beeler, you got another one?
I guess the hand just stays up, but I didn't realize you had to touch it to pull it back down. So I will ask another one, Coach. When you look at the Mountain West this year, getting a late start, what do you think overall? I mean, I know some teams have played more games than others. What do you think overall the way the league looks this year as far as the talent and compare it with what you've seen nationally?
I think it looks really good. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of good football teams in this league, and I think they're really well coached. And that's sometimes you lose some of that when you don't play the non-conference schedule, right? Like this example, I know a year ago our conference did an incredible job, going on the road and playing against Power 5 and against their non-conference opponents. And so I think that part of it is you lose some of that. But, I don't think – I think this conference has incredible respect, nationwide. Does it get that from the media? I don't know, if it's that level. But there's good players, extremely well coached, and every team is good enough to beat you. And I think that's something that makes the conference unique. And you do have to play a little bit of variety, right? You're going to get, wide open. You're going to get, pro style. San Diego State, you got to defend. You're going to get, Rocky Long's 3-3-5 defense. You got to play the triple option. I mean, it's fun football. It's a really cool conference, And so, I think that part of it, makes it a really fun conference to be a part of.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck this week.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we're going to go back to Julia. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Are there any takeaways from this season that you will take going forward, like post-pandemic? Like, are there any new meetings or practices that you think you can adapt and kind of make better next season?
That's a good question. I think there's some things that the NCAA has done that, is a good thing for college football. There was, before when we got the season stopped and then restart, when it was stopped, they allowed football coaches to meet or to work with their players with a ball on the field. We had to do it in small groups because of COVID and all that stuff, but I think there's value in that. Every other sport, if you are a basketball player, your coach could take you for, I think it's like 2 hours a week and work on jump shots or 3-pointers or your killer crossover or whatever. You don't have that option in football. You have the season and you have spring practice, and then they're with the strength and conditioning coaches, but they're not with the coaches, and you're not, working on technique and things that can help them play better. So, I think that's kind of an NCAA thing, which I think was a good deal. I think people are finding that Zoom is a very functional way to meet, and you can get a lot of good work done that way, which I think I definitely think we're missing something, not being able to meet together as a group or a position group or a side of the ball. I think we're definitely missing that, that part of it. I'm trying to think what else here. For us, the experience of going away to Humboldt was really positive, really, really positive. And it gave the players a chance to really connect. I think, I've talked about it a lot, but just young people or people in general are missing that human connection piece. It's just everywhere. And so the chance for them to be together and just to be a college football player again, and, going to school in the afternoon and sleeping in the dorms, it was just it was a cool experience for them. So we're always looking for ways to improve it, but COVID is definitely forcing everybody to think differently about how they go about their day-to-day work.
Okay, last question here coming from Victor Aquino.
Hi, Coach. Victor Aquino, Mountain West Connection. Last year was a surprisingly competitive game, and I think because they're going after your run defense, but you had the turnover, thing going for you guys. And this year, where would you kind of put the differentiating factors? Like if it's kicking game, flipping the field, anything kind of sticking out to you where you guys need to focus on?
Well, I don't know that I can draw a line that clearly, Victor. This is one of those teams when you play, I kind of mentioned earlier about just playing a clean game. Like, they're good at everything, right? They do they're obviously excellent in the kicking game. They're excellent on offense. They're excellent on defense. So, and that's not just BS. Like, if you watch them play, someone's is like to me, like, well, what happened against BYU? I'm like, you lose 3 quarterbacks, like the world gets different fast, like that part of it. And then BYU is really good, right? So, that wasn't really resonating with me. But they have great personnel everywhere. They have, their quarterback is an outstanding player. He's really confident back there. He makes them go. He delivers the ball with real ease. He can make every throw on the field. That's obvious. You see their wideouts, their playmakers. They do a great job being creative, getting different guys the football. Both their running backs are big and fast and tough and super good. Helani a year ago, I think, was Mountain West Freshman of the Year or something. He's fantastic. So, then on the defensive side, that whole defensive front, Irwin has been one of the best pass rushers in the conference for a long time. I think JL Skinner's a future superstar in his conference. So they have really good personnel everywhere. Then they match that with very good coaching and high effort. It's a great recipe to play good football, and that's what they do. So I can't say it's going to be this or that. Like, in retrospect, you're kind of drawing the line at where it happened last year. But going into this thing, we need to play good football, and try and match them with some of that, because they will.
Yeah, fair enough. Thanks.
Yep.
All right, that does it for this week's press conference against San Jose State. 1:00 kick against Boise this Saturday, Pacific time on Fox, and you can also get the radio coverage on the Spartan Radio Network starting at 12:30. In addition, 860 KTRB will carry the call this week. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Have a good week.